Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Wednesday, January 19th at 11:26 a.m. It's time to figure out a couple of things. We got Frog Radio at 12 o'clock, so we're going to cut it very precisely a minute or two before, and we'll get through as much as we can. So today was a very difficult day for myself. I made some changes. I've been making some changes over the last couple of days, and it is a repercussion of significant self-thought, introspection, reflection, and rational thoughts about a market that's ever evolving, continuously iterating, and literally changing right before our eyes. This is a very difficult market to get your hands on. In legacy finance and the equities market, things move ridiculously slow. It takes a year for a capital raise on a corporation. It takes multiple years for infrastructure deployment. It takes a half a decade for any traction with regard to potentially generating a revenue stream, but that's not the way it is in the crypto space. In fact, you could get billions of dollars worth of funding in a couple of days. A lot of projects start with, easily eight figures in funding in a day, and combined with the pace in which software is mutable and you could iterate things so damn quick, the pace of execution, evolution, iteration, deprecation, leading should lead to deprecation, is extraordinary. So it's ear to the pavement, axe to the grindstone. We're one of those phrases, and it's hard to keep up. It's extremely hard to keep up. It's very hard for myself to keep up. So what do we have? We have a digital financial market that started gaining critical mass in the beginning of 2020. And we're at the beginning of 2022. We're 2 years in. So what we have is smart contracts that have monetary policy implementations that have gone through several stages of evolution. And we're far away from the old school days of like 2017 or just UTXO assets in general, where you have inflation or just purely disinflation. So a lot of the DeFi protocols at the beginning of 2020 started with just an inflationary monetary policy, and we had a craze with farming and all that bullshit with hyperinflationary tokenomics that was just extremely price destructive. And it's not just destructive; it leads to a death spiral. It's just going to get zero, target zero when you have hyperinflation. Towards the end of 2020, good parts of 2021, you had new tokenomics emerge. You had synergies between protocols emerge. So what do we have now? What do we have now in 2022? We have hindsight. We have points of reference. We have implementations to draw on for consideration for where the market came from, thinking about where it is and where it's heading. And the market is extraordinary where it is. It's fascinating where we came from, and it's heading where it should head for a digital financial system, which is iteratively. It needs to be based on what has been built. It needs to be assessed for where it is. And we speculate then on where it's heading based on insights that we have for particular developers, particular protocols, or particular needs of the entire ecosystem. So one of the biggest things that emerged and caught fire in 2021 was the alternative chains. And obviously, we saw what happened with Binance Smart Chain, and then that led into Polygon, and that led into Avalanche, and looks like it's leading into Phantom. And Cosmos hubs are yet to catch the fire. Polkadot is catching on. So these things are inevitable. The same thing that happened with BSC happened with Polygon, happened with Avalanche, happened with Phantom, is going to happen on the Cosmos hubs, is going to happen on the Polkadot parachains, and that's just the nature of directionality. So we see that's the trend, and we're able to see that the ecosystem is expanding, and the concept of cross-chain was one of my 2021, December 2021 narratives that I wanted to focus on in 2022, and it's happening very quick. Um, Very, very quick. Well, we have the bridges, the individual bridges to each of the chains where you have a local deposit and a minted representation on the destination chain. And I think there's much room for iteration. There's room for seamless cross-chain interoperability. And that's just an extraordinarily grandiose concept that leaves the potential creation of very attractive and innovative pieces of software. Why can't a DEX just be seamlessly cross-chain and get the best prices? It's able to tap the liquidity that's on any chain. If you want to do a transaction on Phantom and it pulls liquidity from Ethereum, fine. If someone, the same thing with any of the chains, mix and match any of them. Cross-chain routing. Could you imagine like a DEX aggregator that just pulls liquidity from Avalanche, Phantom, and Arbitrum, routes it through Ethereum, and gives you the best slippage on Binance Smart Chain? I don't know, but that's where I think a good part of 2022 is heading, the seamless cross-chain interoperability. So I made portfolio adjustments. You guys have known that I've been trimming curve a little bit. I have a solid base VE curve position. CVXCRV, I don't have any negative sentiment about it yet. I do believe, obviously, it has antiquated tokenomics. The synergy with Convex is extraordinary, and that has led to protocols not only wanting to fight to consume curve to control the curve monetary policy. Now you got protocols fighting to control convex, which controls curve monetary policy. So what have I said about like Ohm and Olympus DAO? Olympus DAO's pivot is another story, but what have I said about the crypto treasuries? I'm more interested in the assets they're accumulating than the treasury itself. So convex controls curve. Who controls convex? Ain't that a question? And then obviously, I'm not too fond of that sequencing. If someone controls curve, who is that person? Convex controls curve. Who controls convex? And then who controls that person? Who controls that? Who controls that? So I don't like that never ending sequence, cascade of someone always being in a fight to control the person who controls someone else. So that is not the most palatable of flows that come to my mind. But it's Frax. Frax controls convex. Now we'll see what happens. I believe a lot of people I talk to that express that an asset and a protocol needs to deliver quickly and iterate rapidly. And I agree. And that's like, Andre's type of mentality and Danny's type of mentality. And it makes perfect sense. I completely align with them, not only in what they do, but also how they think. Um, but it is important that, to me, that we play a market the way it is today and we speculate on directionality. Like it's folks that buy like Cardano. It has smart contracts. Yeah. What has it got today? So when it has smart contracts and it has $1 billion worth of TVL and there's hundreds of millions of dollars a day churning in the ecosystem, that's very different than the fact that it has smart contracts. And yeah, sure, it could do it eventually. Maybe it's not critical mass. So I'm very interested in the fact that as of right now, Frax owns control of Convex, and their bribes have been what they've been. And FPI is coming, and I think everything's directionally heading towards a treasury type of implementation. Where you deposit, you have your mint that's stable, and then the deposits are used to generate revenue, and that revenue is used to facilitate business operations, whatever that may be. Maybe it's a revenue stream for token depositors. Maybe it's accumulating more CVX. Maybe. So we can speculate all we want, but the most important thing I remind myself of constantly is to play the market as it is today. And if you're going to speculate on the market that may be in the future, sure, you could take your 0.5%, 1% plays. But there's much less risk involved if you're looking at the market as it is today and it has something. There's something that's critical mass, and then you're speculating on directionality because now you have a solid point of reference. Where can it go from today? If there's like 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion TVL or whatever the number is it growing? Is it shrinking? Is there more cash flow? Is there more accumulation? Like there's zero TVL. on Cardano. There's zero TVL on XRP. There's zero TVL on Bitcoin a minute. There's no liquidity. So how could you speculate there's going to be a growth in liquidity? So that play the market as it is today. That's my whole point. Let's take some questions. Let's look some charts. We got Frog Radio coming up about 24 minutes. Dan, morning Noah. Could you please talk to me about Aave V3? I'm very interested in Aave V3. They talk about cross-chain minting as well. Clearly, that's speculative because as of right today, they have nothing. But V3 talks of it, and that's meaningful because that hits my core narrative. Well, one of my core narratives, that is. Um, I have to look into whether they're doing any tokenomics iteration. But Aave is what it is. They have integrations into banking, and the bribes on Aave should drive significant appreciation of the Aave asset. Aave is on my radar. And I'd like to catch it before it does any significant appreciation, but I don't see like critical mass catalysts at the moment. Now, that doesn't mean jack. That doesn't mean shit. That doesn't mean anything. I might be late. I don't want to be too early. There's no science to this stuff. It's all based on gut instinct and this rational thought process, this deduction of ideas that you see and trying to, crystallize an action to take. So if I don't take an action and someone else does, it doesn't mean I'm right and they're wrong or vice versa. I have a small Aave position. We'll see. I'm very interested in what they're doing with V3. Patrick, need a drink after the past few days. Damn right you do. I know the feeling. I do too. Liv W's in the house. Hilda's in the house. Always a pleasure. Crypto bets. Hey, Captain, any thoughts on the current curve narrative? I'm seeing a lot of concern on Twitter about V2. I'm very excited about V2. The V2 is extraordinary, just expanding to the entire crypto market of asset pairs, and the concentrated liquidity is just extraordinary in the V2 algorithm. The slippage is very, very efficient. And it's just exciting. I think it's an expansion of their entire ecosystem, and they have the mode of being able to generate a huge amount of curve, which means you're able to pay a huge amount to incentivize participation in an LP position, and that massive amount of incentive is being sucked out of the market by all the synergistic protocols. So you guys know the curve narrative. Nothing changed with the curve narrative. And if I adjust my portfolio, that doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. I have no idea what's going to play out. We'll only know that in hindsight. Curve narrative is completely solid, as I've always talked about it. And V2 should be very interesting. The only reason I would make portfolio adjustments is if in my mind I see a potentially larger narrative. And that doesn't mean anything. Maybe someone loves 50% on their money and they don't want to significantly outperform. I mean, come on, the 50% of your money is a ridiculous number. So these are all difficult decisions. They're not easy. And if you think they're easy by following someone else's actions, looking at some whale wallet, please stop and relax and take your time because it's not easy. And just copy trading, it will not produce the desired outcome. Almost always. It's just not the way to do things. And it's better. That's why I tell everyone that doesn't have a rigorous narrative, a rigorous framework, stop. Because you could get 20% on stablecoins, and that's extraordinary. And then you take a 1% bet here and there. So that's the way I talk, and you guys know that by now. Hunter, hey Noah, do you know if V Multi will be on the Ethereum network on Phantom? Probably Phantom. Curious if the revenue stream will be able to be claimed without gas fees. It's probably be on all chains. I would speculate. We'll only know in probably 2 weeks or so, maybe 3 or less. It's imminent though, so that's the when you're gonna hang your hat on a narrative that's emergent, you kind of got to watch the time horizon. Now, this happens to be imminent. Um, buy the news, sell the event is a historic phrase that people say, and we'll see how that plays out. But as of right now, this looks like the news, and it's a spot on resistance flip support thus far. Well, curious to see how the price action holds up around 22 1.95 because that's literally a previous resistance. So the expression of support at a previous resistance thus far is refreshing to see from a technical standpoint. We all know the fundamental conversation. You're all trying to digest that. I know that. But one of the more important things is this. I'll share this before dwelling too much on multi-chain. Go over here, you go over to dashboard. There's about 20 mil to be distributed on 2 million transactions. So what happens when there's 2 million transactions a day? And there's 20 mil worth of revenue a day. This will be the largest revenue producer in the entire crypto space if that was the case. And that's just 2 billion transactions a day on very fast networks, including Avalanche, Phantom, and Arbitrum, which and they're cheap compared to Ethereum. Avalanche, Phantom, and Polygon are well known for very, very high transaction volume, much higher volume than on Ethereum mainnet because the fees are basically a fraction of the cost. So if you could crank out 2 million transactions and get $19 million worth of fees a day, that's going to be a very lucrative, speculatively lucrative protocol. Do you think due to high emissions narrative of Curve that CVX is better positioned to hold since it already controls Curve and branching out to control other VE tokens? Very difficult to say what's better, CVX, CRV, CVX, or something that controls convex. I don't, we're taking speculation. I gave my rationale. If convex controls curve and someone controls convex, that would be if you had CVX, CRV, convex, and Frax, you have three assets that are on the curve narrative, and that is redundant. That is a good part of my rationale for recent actions I've taken. Um, they're redundant positions. I like to target a narrative with a concentrated expression. So I don't want redundancy. I want concentration. I don't want um, um, uh, I, I don't want my capital to be distributed. I want to be concentrated on the narratives that I feel strongest about. I don't want excessive diversification. You guys know that I say that quite often. High emissions narrative for Curve, that's not a problem because of the synergy that Convex has proved to be the case. And there's other protocols that are accumulating Curve as well. But as of right now, Convex has the lead and they have a capacity to maintain the lead, so they control basically the Curve monetary policy. Um, that's the deal. So you can't think of Curve as a high emissions protocol because it's basically net disinflationary with very strong transitory periods of deflation. We've talked about this stuff. So it's not just a hyperinflationary protocol. It's something new, something novel compared to just disinflationary or hyperinflationary UTXO protocols from years past. The chart is directionally upward. You can't look at it on the daily. I wouldn't even look at it on the weekly anymore. You're way above the bottom bar of the fork. If you go out to the monthly, you're sitting at a significant price point. I would have loved to see it hold above 4.65, which was the previous resistance, but this is a nice previous resistance down here at 3.46. So we can see some downward pressure down to 3.46 as long as you're above $2.81, 82 cents. You're above the monthly TWAP. So this is clearly a chart that's directionally upward. Previous month's close was a hammer, a nice hammer. That's a very bullish looking candle, especially with this month's close about 12 days away. It's not pushing too much into the hammer. It's not like it's even remotely close to a bearish engulfing candle that would invalidate the strengths of the previous month's close. So this is a directionally appreciative chart. Did you see Wonderland's pivots, Malik? Yeah, that's very interesting. That's just going to generate a huge amount of cash flow. They're going to acquire a variety of very interesting companies, and I think it could potentially be a very meaningful revenue stream. It's a big pivot. It's a big pivot. Anyone who has a sizable position is in very good shape to generate a very meaningful revenue stream. Is it something that I'm approaching at this moment? I am not. for the reasons I've talked about historically, but that changed obviously with their massive pivot. So it is something I'm processing. It takes me time to process things, and I sure as hell don't take any position lightly. It is very, very difficult for me to take a position that requires significant due diligence um, and prudence. Let's pull it over here. Let's take a look at spell. Asun, good morning. Stay educated, friends. Greetings from Lago. Earman, my man. Won't cross-chain bridge use security concerns as it's just multi-sig wallets? That's something to consider, Stephen. Did you see Wonderland's pivot? LiveW, do you know about Bent Finance? It's off my radar. It's just another accumulator of convex. Raul. Hi, Critical Mass, 8E, let's go. Mike Pye, hey boss, didn't follow you from last May for the easy lessons. Appreciate your courage. Best Discord hands down. My man, I appreciate it. I really do. We try our best. Would you consider GLP as a safe place to park stables? Very interesting GLP because GLP is net stable. It's basically an aggregate of P&L from the options trading. So based net losses are equal to net gains on average. So GLP has a relatively stable price point as a result, and it produces significant revenue. So GLP is very interesting place to park stables. Um, will Curve V2 be like Spirit in Spirit? No, Spirit in Spirit will be like Curve V2. So Curve's the original, and Spirit. Oh, well, Uh, hard to respond to that. There's a lot going on and a lot to unpack, and I don't want to digress too much. But Curve already has a VE position, and Inspirit is a VE position. Quantified, excited by Sam's comments around testing frac swap on Polygon. Yeah, I saw that too. I saw that too. Harshal, a new DAO formed on FTM one day before they acquired 850 million for an Andre project. So Andre, a lot of protocols are probably going to be fighting over the V33 NFTs, and I expect them to go for millions of dollars. Millions. How everything is unpacked, I don't know. But I keep an eye on this solidly repository. Um, I'm very interested in thinking that there would be single-sided MIM exposure. Um, we'll see how it plays out, but I see references in the code to AnySwap, so I think there's going to be a big focus on cross-chain functionality. So there's a lot going on here, and we don't know all the details. We'll see it soon. Really the multi-chain stuff we've been talking about is separate and apart from this. Um, but speculatively, it's a component of a much larger system that has yet to emerge in the crypto space. Will be multi-be on ETH only? No idea. Question, how do you develop the strength of mind to cut losing positions that you've invested in heavily? I have no idea. I have no idea how the heck I do the things I do. I have no idea how the heck I got to where I am. I've done pretty well. I know people have done significantly better than me, but I think since March 2020, I guess it's probably about a 40 or 50x on the portfolio. And then it was higher because I'm down about 30% from all-time high. So I haven't done that bad. I mean, of course, I've done extraordinary. I've got to be reasonable when I say things like that. 40, 50x on a portfolio is extraordinary. And so I have no idea how I do the things I do. I'm sorry, Harvey. But I'm here and happy to talk about it. I talk about it with all you guys, and I hope it helps. And the last thing I will ever, ever, ever tell anyone to do is what to buy and sell, because I have no idea. I have no idea if I'm making the best choices. I tell everyone we only know in hindsight how good our choices were. And that's it. That's period. So all you could do is exactly what I tell you guys to do: is to have a rational conversation with yourself, really digest the monetary policy, digest investors, token distribution, the technology in play, macroeconomics, scale and scope of a potential protocol, TAM, total addressable market, so on and so forth. who the developers are. And that's something I will always tell everyone about because that's the process. That's the exact process I follow. And that's the exact process I speak of, and the exact process I love to talk about in conversation. So that's the deal. All yields are down, but Geist beat. Geist is doing well. I haven't checked the price in like 2 weeks, but kind of have a position that I don't even track part of the portfolio because my portfolio tracker doesn't have the asset, but that's besides the point. Is what it is. I hope it does well. Good morning, Doe. Hilda, opportunity cost. We're sitting on ICE. APR price got low. So my opinion on ICE, honestly, is Q3, Q4, maybe Q1 2023. The team is probably cranking out some serious algorithms. I have insight that they're probably working on JIT liquidity, just-in-time liquidity, which is a more aggressive means of extracting capital from LP positions, and I happen to like and love what they're working on. Um, but it's going to take time, and it's not going to happen quick. Q3, Q4, Q1 2023. That's kind of what I'm seeing, but we'll reassess as the year goes on. Mike, yes, it helps. Thanks for sharing, Noah. You're very welcome. Quantified position sizing has been my biggest learning. Once I'm not overexposed, I'm happy to cut a losing bag. Position sizing is one of the hardest things to get right, and it's can only be assessed with experience, and you can only know how to be risk adverse as if you lost a shitload of money. So that's something worth saying. Um, how about that? It's the best I could say right there. Hey, no, I wanted to ask you if you have any thoughts on sin versus multi. Sin is microscopic compared to multi. Quantified. As Noah says, there's always another opportunity in the crypto space. There is always another opportunity. So Spell is one of my largest positions. It's in the top four. It looks decent on the weekly. It's obviously directionally bullish, as the fork illustrates. It held support on the bottom bar of the fork. It's below the weekly 10 SMA. It's below the weekly. It's below the weekly everything. This is below moving averages, other than the daily, which is interesting. It seems to have support on the daily 200 SMA and the 200 EMA. Um, there's no indication that we have a directionally bullish trend reversal right about now, but that's irrelevant because you have your macro trend in play, you have the macro narrative and the fundamentals in play, and it's directionally bullish as compared to where it was at the middle of last year, May 24th. 2021. Fraction of a penny. That's the deal. What can we look at? I showed you guys multi, which has a nice resistance flip support or an expression of support at a previous resistance. We'll take a look at two other charts real quick, and we'll wrap this up. Let me load these two. I'm not going to hit macros today. Bonds, obviously, yields have been coming down a little bit, which is why there's a little bit of relief in the market. So obviously, Keeper, KP3R, is still elevated. That's barely a dip. And if it holds at support on the previous resistances, that's very interesting. So this is a directionally bullish chart. Obviously, I don't see any significant pressure for a larger retrace in play. It's not a large ABC corrective pattern or it's a double top situation, but we'll see. We'll see. I happen to like this position. It's sized properly. It's not one of my largest positions. Frax happens to be one of my largest positions. It looks like it's a resistance flip support retest type push. There was a previous resistance set back in November of 2021 of $27, and obviously it pushed down toward it. This reminds me of like the push down for multi. It's just a big run up, and this is good when you see a capital rotation like this. It's the weakness getting out and fresh capital coming in with a higher cost basis. So that's the whole concept of higher lows. When you have higher lows, you have fresh capital and a reset higher cost basis. And the strong hands don't really care how high it goes because they have a different mindset. And there's a great reason to have a different mindset in the crypto space because there's actually yield. Doesn't exist in legacy finance. The only thing you can do with assets in legacy finance is sell them. So there's a lot more deeper of a narrative to consider in the crypto space as compared to traditional equities markets. Dylan, could you elaborate on why multi is so much bigger? No idea, but if we go over here, multi has, where's their TVL? You go over here. Load? You get it up? No, not the router. I want the landing page. Show me the landing page. Damn. That was a little less than $7 billion a couple days ago. 6.8. Damn. Okay. I don't know. It's literally gotten like $2 billion of cross-chain liquidity in the last couple days. Wow. Wow. The volume is big too. I think this is lagging. I think the might be lagging a bit. But damn, the amount. Look at that. It's about $10 per transaction. That's crazy. That's very exciting revenue. I'm going to wrap this up in a second. Let me see if I get any last minute questions. No, I know you're busy, but there's been a bunch of Cosmos airdrops that have done very well. Worth checking. I don't know. I'm not keeping up really. I was looking into my Astar position as I did the Plasm lock drop a couple years back in 2020, and Astar just launched. So the Astar is an EVM compatible smart contract network operating as a Polkadot parachain. Boom. So as for Cosmos hubs, clearly there's a lot of stuff going on in Cosmos. I don't even know where to begin in a couple of second conversation. Do you think the MEV narrative never fully played out? Keeper, Rook, it's still there as a technology. It just didn't head in the right direction with regard to tokenomics. They're trying to pivot and do all these fancy things, and it's exciting what they're doing. But, I'd rather be a little bit late than early and be wrong. So that's my sentiment nowadays. How large is your keeper position? Keeper is 3.42%. 24-hour vol, 1.2 billion. Ooh, is your thinking behind multi being tied to the Andre project just from the mention on GitHub? No, it's this. Do you see that? $19 million worth of fees, speculatively, and makes sense for it to be for VE multi on 2 million transactions. What happens when there's 2 million transactions a day? So before Solidly was hinted and announced, I was thinking about what the heck they're working on. What are they doing that could be so big and so interesting? And cross chain liquidity. That's big stuff. Outlook on Blizz and Geist long term, no, not much interest at all. Cheers, Cap. 24 likes. We can do better. 85 people in the stream. 26 likes. We can do better. I wish you all a wonderful day. Wednesday, January 19th, 11:59 a.m. is Frog Radio time. Thank you all for joining me. Tell everybody to subscribe because everybody needs a dose of rationality. Ain't that the truth? After party on Discord, because you guys know the deal. Best place to figure out these insane markets. So, as I said, I wish you all a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time. I don't think I have a Friday stream, but I'll be on Twitter, I'll be on Discord, and I'll keep you guys posted on what my schedule is. Peace.